come here. But I was of the mindset that, look, anybody should be allowed to have the opportunity to demonstrate or to say what they think, however horrible or horrified we may be of the views that they hold. And at the end of the day, I was very happy that the KKK got their permit. And I was happy to see the 6 people who showed up to that rally. And ecstatic about the 5,000 people across the street that were there to protest that rally. That's tolerance. And that's something that we should uphold here in the city of New York, because we are the international capital of the world. I came here when I was an immigrant kid, not really knowing what to expect. My family worked very hard, but we came here to pursue the American dream. And in many ways we've achieved it, and we have to preserve it for as many generations as possible. And tolerance has to be the key ingredient, because without tolerance, there can be no opportunity. There can be no quality of life. There can be no aspiration. So I thank you very much for the very first chance I've had this year to really talk about something that's been very special and near to my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me, and it's an honor for me to be here tonight. You know, 25 years ago, I went to Grand Central Terminal after a woman died of malnutrition. She starved to death in the richest city in the richest country in the world, and I couldn't understand why. And I found there 1,500 people who were homeless, and tolerance means to me that I didn't judge why they were there. I wanted to find out why they were there, and I wanted to help them get up off of the floor of that terminal and make something out of their lives, to help them do that. And we have actually done that over these years. We've helped tens of thousands of people. But the Talmud says that you should try to repair the breach every day, that in every way you can contribute in small ways by helping people, by doing mitzvahs. And when I started out, Ed Koch said, I did a mitzvah. He did a mitzvah. And that's how I learned what a mitzvah was. And then, as I developed the Go Fund, I found out that it actually was on Maimonides' ladder, on the rabbi's ladder, the highest and best use of charity, to help somebody anonymously help themselves. And that's tolerance to me. Don't make judgments about people whose background and experience in life you don't know, and try to help them. And we should be trying to help all of our people here in the city, and that's tolerance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes, let Yes, let me first say what a pleasure it is to be here, Rabbi Berg, our moderators. It is great to be here this evening and to see a room full of people for a discussion about tolerance. And as I said, as campaign wears on, perhaps we should have been here at the beginning of the campaign months ago. I think it would have prepared us in some ways a little better for the campaign. But that said, there are also, let me acknowledge, I see, if I see Assemblyman Walter Mosley in the back. It's great to see him, and I see former Councilwoman Una Clark, who's also here, so it's great seeing her. Tolerance in so many ways really is, it is acceptance, but it is also understanding and respect. And I think that's the one thing that has made New York City the greatest city in the world, by and large. And there are those occasions, there are those exceptions to the rule. But the thing that has made New York City the greatest city is because people generally accept other people. People respect other people, different backgrounds, different religions, different races. That's all part of tolerance. That is the thing that has made New York City, some would call it the gorgeous mosaic, others would call it a melting pot, call it what you will. But it is a city of tolerance by and large. And when we see the lack of tolerance, when we see hatred rear its head, by and large, New Yorkers come together to let people understand, to let the world understand, to let others understand, particularly those who exhibit hate, that that's not who we are. That we are a city that believes in tolerance, that we are a city who believes in respect and understanding. So I think that when you look at, tolerance, that's what it means to me. It is, and by and large, it is New York City. That's the city I've grown up in, the city that accepts immigrants, accepted my grandparents when they came here, that accepts people from all over the world and all backgrounds. That's tolerance.
Thank you. Before we go to Mr. de Blasio, I wanted to just mention, because he came in late, we're doing 2 minutes each on what does tolerance mean to you. I should also mention to the candidates, we do have a timekeeper in the back who will show signs as we time out your 2-minute responses. I also wanted to mention for folks in the audience, if you are tweeting, the hashtag is Tolerance Forum. If you don't know what that means, no problem. Mr. de Blasio.
Thank you. First, I ask you all to be, there we go. I ask you all to be tolerant of my lateness. I ask for your forgiveness. Wait, I need a better mic. Yeah. Something's funny. We have another one? That's a battery issue. Let's try this one. Ooh, very smooth. I want to thank the Museum of Tolerance. I want to thank Rabbi Berg for his leadership, and the ubiquitous Errol Lewis. Thank you for moderating for the 407th time these forums. I want to also ask tolerance of anyone who ever, over the coming years in this city, ends up sitting behind Dante de Blasio in a theater or an audience. Have a sense of tolerance. He worked for years on that chair. You have to understand. Look, I think this city, we are doing something every day that people all over the globe are striving to try to reach. You know, every day we are practicing peaceful coexistence and mutual understanding. We're far from perfect, but it's part of the idea of New York City. That we can all be here together and we can find a way to make the place better together. And that inspires me all the time. I often say, thinking about what my children have experienced, you know, they have gone to public schools, and I say there's no greater melting pot, no greater place to learn about how to get along with everyone than a playground of a New York City public school. And I think we do something extraordinary in this city. I think at the same time the definition should pull us back to our sense of mission. The definition to me of tolerance is appreciation for everyone, appreciation for their culture, learning to find the commonality, learning to put yourself in the other person's shoes. And I agree with Bill that this city does it better than so many other places. Now, we still face challenges. And we've still seen too many bias attacks in this city, even in recent months. And that's the thing we have to be intolerant of. That's the irony of this discussion. We have to be constantly positive in the messages, particularly we teach our young people. We also have to show tremendous resolve in addressing intolerance in any form directed at any community, and there's real consistency about that. If people see that no matter who is under attack, we stand by them. That's part of how we keep New York City on this positive track.
Thank you. Mr. Hidary.
Thank you, Errol. First, I want to thank the Center for hosting us here, the Museum of Tolerance. It's great to be here with you all tonight. For me, the definition of tolerance comes from where I grew up and how I grew up. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I was born to a family that immigrated to this country, a Jewish family from Syria. So right there, quite an interesting mix. 3 of my grandparents spoke Arabic as their native tongue. My mother grew up in Barranquilla, Colombia, so we added Latino to the culture as well. And the definition of tolerance for me is very much around inclusion, acceptance, and celebration of diversity. Celebration of the fact that we have 150 plus cultures and languages in New York City. Tolerance for me is the Bialik School. The Bialik School is a school in Israel that has 900 kids from 55 countries. Jews, Palestinians, sons and daughters of migrant workers, sons and daughters of refugees from Sudan, from Mali, all getting along, all working together, all working in teams to make life better for each of them. Tolerance for me is Facing History in Ourselves, a program right here in New York City, a program that brings lessons from the Holocaust, from the Civil Rights Movement, from Gandhi, and brings kids these lessons in an experiential format, in a format they could feel and understand directly. These are the kinds of things that will bring our cultures together, that will celebrate